Hey, algebra students. So it sort of begins. We're going to start talking about polynomials. And actually, what we do with polynomials in algebra is going to be some of the hardest stuff that we do all year. Now, it's going to start off pretty easy, but just so you know, we're going to get into some pretty difficult things involving polynomials, including especially when we get to factoring polynomials. But even today's lesson is not really a walk in the park as we add and subtract polynomials. Now, most of this lesson is just getting the terminology surrounding polynomials down. So that's where we're going to start. First of all, in order to understand what a polynomial is, you need to understand what a monomial is. A monomial is a type of polynomial that has one term. Remember earlier in the year, we talked about terms and how different expressions were made up of different terms that were added and subtracted. Well, for the most part, a polynomial is a term. Now, that's a little bit of a simplification. There are some terms that we would consider terms, but not monomials or not polynomials, okay? But a monomial, if you think of like the terms that are separated by plus and minus, that's really going to help you understand what a monomial and what a polynomial are. So let's start with monomial. A monomial is the product of variables and numbers with whole number exponents. Okay, so let's take a look at some things that are monomials. Notice that I have variables that they can have exponents, whole number exponents, 3, 2, okay? And notice also that they can be multiplied by things. This one's being multiplied by 0.75. This one's being multiplied by 1/2. Okay, this one's well, it's just here we have a variable. Let's see. This is considered the number 3 is considered a monomial because it technically has a variable that's raised to the 0th power, and 0 counts as a whole number. Okay, so remember, whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Not monomials would be anything that has a negative or fractional exponent. 1 over x, technically x in this expression is x to the negative first, right? Because it's in the denominator. So variables in the denominator are not allowed in monomials. Also, we can't have terms that are not products as monomials. X minus y is a difference, not a product. X times y up here was a monomial, or negative xy even is a monomial, because it's like we're multiplying xy by -1, that's fine, but not x minus y. And then here, the problem with this one is it's raised to a negative power. In other words, x is actually in the denominator in this term. Okay, so do you see the difference? As long as our variables are all in the numerator and they're all being raised to whole number exponents, it's fine. And then just a constant number is fine too, like the number 3, the number 8, the number 12. Okay? The degree of a monomial is the sum of the exponents of the variables. So this first one is a first degree monomial because there's just one exponent raised to the first. The second one is a third degree monomial. It has an exponent raised to the third. We ignore the constant 1/2 that's multiplying it. This third one is a second degree monomial. X is raised to the first plus y is raised to the first. 1 plus 1 is 2. Second degree monomial, and there is such a thing as a 0 degree monomial. And actually, a 0 degree monomial is a constant like the number 3. All right, a polynomial then, the thing that we're actually focusing on in this lesson is either a monomial, which we just, by definition, a monomial is a type of polynomial, or the sum or difference of monomials. The reason that x minus y here isn't a monomial is because it's the difference of two monomials, so we would call this a polynomial. None of these other ones, by the way, are polynomials, except for x minus y. All of these monomials technically would be considered polynomials. The degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of any term in the polynomial. In this case, the degree of this polynomial is 1 because both terms are raised to the first power. If this was x squared minus y, the degree would be 2 because one of the terms is to the second power. Now notice the difference. The degree of a monomial, we have to add the degrees of all of the terms being multiplied because they're being multiplied. But the degree of a polynomial, we look at all of the monomials, figure out their degrees, and we just take whichever one is the biggest, and that's the degree of a polynomial. We'll work with that in just a little bit. The leading coefficient of a polynomial is the coefficient of the term that has the greatest degree. We'll work with that in just a little bit. And then the standard form of a polynomial, again, we're going to work with this in just a second in the practice, is where we put all of the terms of the polynomial from greatest degree to lowest degree.